She steals a suitcase full of money, but when she discovers it belongs to her long-lost biological father. Jessica Miller walked hurriedly through the park, clutching the white envelope containing the court notice. The hearing was scheduled for next week, and she knew she'd lose custody of Emily if she couldn't prove she could afford her daughter's treatment. That's when her eyes locked onto the black leather suitcase abandoned on a park bench. Jessica looked around, searching for its owner, but only a few children played in the distance, and an elderly man read a newspaper on the other side. Her heart raced when she realized no one was paying attention. In a decision that would change her life forever, she grabbed the suitcase and ran. "Mom, are you okay?" Emily asked when Jessica arrived home breathless, carrying the mysterious suitcase. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Go rest. You need to take your medicine." Emily, at 15, had developed sharp intuition after years of dealing with kidney disease. Something about her mother's behavior unsettled her, but she obeyed and went to her room. Jessica locked the living room door and placed the suitcase on the center table. Her hands trembled as she opened the first latch. What she saw took her breath away, stacks and stacks of money neatly arranged. It was more money than she'd ever seen in her life. But that wasn't all. At the bottom of the suitcase, she found a yellowed envelope with old photographs. Jessica picked up the first photo, and her world crumbled. There was her mother, Laura, still young, smiling beside a man she'd never seen before. On the back, in Laura's delicate handwriting, it read, "To our daughter, with all our love, Laura and Richard, 1978. "This can't be," Jessica whispered, tears welling up. She examined photo after photo, her mother pregnant, radiant, always beside the same man. Love letters, promises of a future, plans for when the baby arrived. It all contradicted the story Laura had always told, that Jessica's father had abandoned them when he learned of the pregnancy. "Mom?" Emily's voice startled her. "Are you crying?" Jessica quickly hid the photos, but not fast enough. Emily had seen the scattered bills and her mother's shocked expression. "Where did this money come from?" the teenager asked, stepping closer. "It's complicated, Em. I need time to explain." "Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. I know how bad things are. I know you work 3 jobs and still can't afford my treatment. Where did this money come from?" Jessica took a deep breath. How could she explain she'd stolen a suitcase? How could she say she'd just discovered her whole life had been built on a lie? "I found this suitcase today in the park. It was abandoned and you took it," Emily finished, no judgment in her voice. "Mom, who's that man in the photos?" Jessica realized her daughter had glimpsed one of the photos before she hid them. I'm not sure. It might be your grandfather. The man who abandoned us." "That's what I thought, but now I don't know anything anymore." That night, Jessica couldn't sleep. She examined every document in the suitcase. She found an old business card. Richard Thompson, Thompson Construction, Denver. The address was outdated, but the company name rang a bell. The next day, after dropping Emily off at school, Jessica went to an internet cafe and searched for Richard Thompson. What she found left her even more confused. He was a successful businessman, known in the city for his social projects and hospital donations. The company website showed photos of him inaugurating pediatric wings and donating wheelchairs to underprivileged children. "How is this possible?" she murmured to herself. If he was so generous with strangers, why had he never looked for his own daughter? Why had Laura always said he had rejected them? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, Jessica decided to go to the company. She'd make up some excuse just to see him in person and maybe understand better who Richard Thompson really was. Thompson Construction was located in downtown Denver, in a modern glass and steel building. Jessica felt intimidated as she entered the luxurious lobby, but she took a deep breath and approached the reception desk. "Good morning. I'd like to speak with Mr. Richard Thompson," she said, trying to sound professional. "Do you have an appointment?" asked the receptionist, a young blonde woman with straight hair. "No, but it's about a social project. I have a proposal that might interest him. The lie came out naturally. The receptionist checked the schedule and managed to fit her in for late afternoon. He'll have 15 minutes at 5 o'clock. What's your name? Jessica. Jessica Wilson. She lied about the last name, using her mother's maiden name. While she waited, Jessica sat in the waiting area and observed the company's activity. Employees came and went, all seeming satisfied with their work. On one wall, she saw a gallery of photos showcasing the company's social projects. "Dr. Richard is really shaken today," one secretary whispered to another. "He hasn't spoken to anyone since yesterday. I think it has to do with that briefcase he lost." "The one he always carried with him?" the other asked. "Exactly. He said his whole life was in that briefcase. I've never seen him so desperate." Jessica felt her blood run cold. Did the briefcase she'd taken belong to Richard? That couldn't be a coincidence. At exactly 5 o'clock, she was called into his office. Richard Thompson was a man in his early 60s, with neatly groomed grey hair and dressed in a navy blue suit. When he looked up to greet her, Jessica felt as if time had stopped. Those were Emily's eyes, the same almond shape, the same sweet expression. There was no denying it. This man was her father. "Miss Wilson," Richard said, extending his hand. "Please, have a seat. I hear you have a social proposal." Jessica shook his hand and felt a wave of emotion. It was the first time she'd ever touched her father. Yes. It's about underprivileged children who need medical treatment," she began, improvising. "It's a cause very close to my heart," Richard said, and Jessica noticed a deep sadness in his voice. "I have a very personal connection to it. For years, I've been searching for someone very special, a daughter I never knew. She could be sick, she could need help, and I'm not there for her." Richard's words hit Jessica like a punch to the gut. He was looking for her? How was that possible if Laura had always said he'd abandoned them? "You've been searching for your daughter for a long time?" Jessica asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "For 35 years, Richard answered, his eyes welling up. "Since the day Laura disappeared. She was pregnant with our daughter and one day she just vanished. I searched for them all over Colorado, hired detectives, placed ads in newspapers. I never stopped looking." "But why would she run away?" Jessica asked, genuinely confused. "Her family was against our relationship. I was older, from a different social class. Her father threatened me several times. I believe they convinced Laura I wouldn't be a good father or that I wouldn't take responsibility." Richard stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "Every day I wonder, is she okay? Did my daughter grow up knowing she has a father who loves her? Does she need anything I could have given?" His voice broke. Jessica felt tears streaming down her face. Her whole life she had grown up believing her father had rejected her. The anger she felt toward him had shaped so many of her decisions. And now she discovered he had never stopped searching for her. "Mr. Richard," she said, standing up, "I need to leave now, but I'd like to talk to you again soon. Of course, leave your information with my secretary, and thank you for caring about underprivileged children. People like you give me hope that there's still kindness in this world." Jessica left the building in shock. Everything she had believed was a lie. Her mother had lied about the abandonment. Richard had been looking for her for decades, and she had stolen his suitcase of all things. When she got home, she found Emily lying on the couch, pale and struggling to breathe. "Em, what happened?" "I don't know, Mom. I started feeling sick at school. The coordinator brought me home." Jessica rushed to grab the blood pressure monitor. The numbers were off. Emily was having a kidney crisis. "We're going to the hospital now." At the emergency room of Memorial Hospital, Jessica panicked when she learned Emily would need to be admitted for observation. The problem was, they didn't have private insurance, and through Medicaid, the waiting list for the tests she needed was months long. "Mrs. Miller," said the hospital social worker, "I understand your situation, but without updated tests, we can't evaluate Emily's condition. Ideally, you'd get private testing." "How much does it cost?" Jessica asked, though she already knew she couldn't afford it. "The full package is around $8,000. Jessica felt her world collapse. $8,000. Exactly the amount she had seen in Richard's suitcase. The temptation to use that money was overwhelming, but she knew she couldn't, not after discovering who he really was. That's when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Jessica." She turned and saw Richard Thompson standing in the hospital hallway, wearing a visitor's coat. He was there for one of his regular visits to underprivileged patients. "Mr. Richard, what are you doing here?" "I come here every week. I talk to the hospitalized children, see how I can help the families." He looked at Emily on the gurney. "Is this your daughter?" "Yes, Emily. She has kidney problems." Richard stepped closer to the gurney, and when he saw Emily, he froze. The resemblance was undeniable. The eyes, the shape of her face, even the serene expression she kept despite being sick. It was like looking at Laura at 15. "How old is she?" he asked, his voice trembling. 15. "And she looks so much like someone I knew a long time ago." Emily opened her eyes and looked at Richard. Even in her weakened state, she sensed something special about this man. "Mom, who is he?" she whispered. Jessica was in a terrible dilemma. How could she tell the truth right here, right now? How could she explain everything she had just discovered? "This is Mr. Richard, Em. He helps sick children." "It's true," Richard said, stepping closer. "And I'll help you too, sweetheart. Don't worry. Your treatment will be the best possible." "No," Jessica said, pushing him away. "We can't accept your help." Richard looked at her, surprised. "Why?" "It's my mission to help underprivileged children. Because it's complicated." Emily watched the tension between the two adults, and even in her sickness, her sharp mind didn't miss a thing. "Mom, what's going on? Why have you been acting strange since yesterday?" Jessica took a deep breath. She couldn't keep lying, especially not with Emily sick and needing help. "Em, I need to tell you something. Mr. Richard, you also need to know the truth." She looked at them both and made the hardest decision of her life. "Mr. Richard, I'm Jessica Miller. My maiden name is Jessica Wilson. My mother was Laura Wilson." Richard turned pale as a sheet. "Laura, you're my daughter." "I am. And this is Emily, your granddaughter." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard looked at Jessica, then at Emily, and broke down in tears. "I've searched for you my whole life," he said, sobbing. "My whole life." Emily, weak as she was, tried to sit up on the stretcher. "Grandpa," she whispered. "I have a grandpa?" Richard moved closer to his granddaughter and gently held her hand. "Yes, my dear. And I'm going to take care of you. I'll take care of both of you." "But, Mr. Richard," Jessica said, "there's one more thing I need to tell you. I took your bag yesterday at the park." Richard stopped crying and looked at her. "My bag. The black leather bag. I was desperate with no money for Emily's treatment, and when I saw the bag left on the bench, I took it. I'm sorry, I know it was wrong." Richard laughed through his tears. "Jessica, my daughter, I left that bag there on purpose." "What do you mean?" 3 months ago, I hired a new private investigator. He managed to give me information about where you usually spent your afternoons. I found out you always went to that park after work. I watched from a distance, too afraid to approach. Yesterday, I left the bag there because I didn't know how else to reach you." Jessica was in shock. "You knew who I was?" "For 2 months. The investigator got a photo of you leaving work. You looked just like your mother at your age. When I saw the photo, I had no doubts." "But why didn't you come to me directly?" "Because I didn't know how you'd react. Your mother must have told you things about me. I thought you hated me. So I came up with this plan with the bag, hoping you'd find the photos and documents, and maybe understand I never stopped searching for you." Emily, who had been listening to everything, managed to speak. "So, you found each other because of my illness. If I hadn't gotten sick today, Mom wouldn't have come to the hospital and you wouldn't have met here." "That's right, my dear," Richard said, stroking his granddaughter's face. "Sometimes fate works in mysterious ways." "But Grandpa," Emily said, "why did Grandma Laura leave? Mom always said you abandoned us." Richard sighed deeply. "It's a long story, Emily. Your grandmother and I loved each other very much. but our families were against our relationship. I was older, better off financially, and her parents thought I wasn't serious. That's ridiculous, Emily said with the bluntness of a teenager. Yeah, it was very ridiculous. One day Laura just disappeared. She left a note saying it was for the best, that she didn't want to ruin my life. But I couldn't accept it. I searched for her until the day I found out she had passed away 5 years ago. Jessica remembered the last conversation she'd had with her mother before she died. Laura had been weakened by cancer, on morphine for the pain. In a moment of clarity, she'd tried to say something about Jessica's father, but Jessica hadn't paid attention, thinking it was the medication talking. My mother tried to tell me the truth before she left, Jessica said, but I thought she was delirious. She said something like, "Look for Richard, he loves you very much," but I didn't think anything of it. Laura was always proud, Richard said. I imagine she carried that burden her whole life. The doctor arrived with Emily's preliminary test results. We need to talk about the patient's condition, he said, looking at the adults. She's in a critical stage of kidney disease. She'll need regular dialysis and soon a transplant. Doctor, said Richard, run all the necessary tests. Money isn't an issue. We want the best possible treatment for her. Grandpa, you don't have to... Emily, Richard interrupted, I lost 35 years of your mother's life. I won't lose a single day of yours. You're my family. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the weeks that followed, Jessica's life changed completely. Richard insisted they move to a better house, closer to the hospital and his company. Emily began treatment with the best specialists in Denver. But not everything was smooth sailing. Jessica's maternal family didn't take the news of her reconnection with Richard well. Jessica, you're making a mistake, said Aunt Susan, Laura's sister, during a tense visit. Richard may have changed now, but 30 years ago he was no good. Why do you think Laura ran away? Aunt Susan, Mr. Richard told me his side of the story, and I believe him. You've always been naive, just like your mother. He's going to use you, take advantage of Emily's illness to get close and then leave again. Emily, who was in the next room, overheard the argument and grew deeply upset. She had quickly grown attached to her grandfather, who visited her in the hospital every day, brought books and told her stories about her grandmother Laura, whom she'd never met. Mom, Emily said that night, is Aunt Susan right? Is Grandpa going to leave? No, sweetheart. Your grandfather has proven he's a man of his word. He's here to stay. But the doubts planted by her maternal family began to grow in Jessica's mind, and Richard noticed the change in her behavior. Jessica, can you tell me what's wrong? You've been distant. It's just, my family has been saying things about you, that maybe your return is temporary. Richard took a deep breath. Jessica, I understand their suspicions. 35 years is a long time, but I can prove to you I never stopped searching for you. He took Jessica to his home office and opened a massive file. Look at this. Newspaper clippings where I placed ads searching for Laura Wilson and daughter, receipts from private detectives I hired over the years, travel records to cities where there were rumors you might be. Jessica flipped through the documents, stunned by the sheer volume of evidence. And this, Richard said, opening a bank account statement, is a savings account I opened the day I found out Laura was pregnant. Every month, without fail, I deposited money into it. For when I found you. Jessica saw the statement. Decades of monthly deposits. The accumulated amount was a fortune. All of this is for me and Emily. It's always been yours. I just held on to it until I found you. At that moment, Jessica finally believed completely in her father's sincerity. All her doubts vanished, but soon a new problem arose. Emily was getting worse. She urgently needed a kidney transplant. Richard immediately volunteered as a donor, but tests revealed he also had kidney issues, a hereditary condition passed down to Emily. Doctor, are you sure I can't donate? Richard insisted. Mr. Richard, you have the same genetic condition as your granddaughter. If we transplant your kidney to her, within a few years, you'd be in the same state she's in now. It's too risky. I don't care about the risk. She's young. She has her whole life ahead of her. No, Emily said firmly from her hospital bed. "Grandpa, I won't let you risk yourself for me. We'll find another donor." Richard was desperate. She mobilized all her contacts, spent a fortune on tests for distant relatives, but no one was a match. That's when Jessica remembered Michael, her ex-husband and Emily's father. They had separated when Emily was 8 and Michael had disappeared from their lives after getting involved with drugs. "Dad, we need to find Michael. He might be a match for Emily." "Where is he?" "I don't know. We haven't heard from him in years." Richard hired the best private investigator in Denver. Within 2 weeks, they found Michael working at a construction site in Colorado Springs. When Richard and Jessica arrived, they saw a changed man. Michael had gotten clean, was working honestly as a laborer, and lived in a simple but tidy boarding house. "Jessica," Michael said, surprised to see her. "How did you find me?" "Michael, Emily is very sick. She needs a kidney transplant." "Emily? Our daughter? What's wrong with her?" Jessica explained the whole situation. Michael was devastated. I've been a terrible father. I abandoned you when she needed me most." "That doesn't matter now," Richard said. "What matters is you can save her." Michael looked at Richard suspiciously. "And who are you?" "I'm Richard Thompson, Emily's grandfather." "I've never heard of you." Jessica explained the story of reconnecting with her father. Michael was surprised but understood. "Of course I'll get tested. If I can save my daughter, I'll do anything." The tests confirmed Michael was a perfect match for Emily, but he set one surprising condition. "I want shared custody of Emily after the surgery." "What do you mean?" Jessica asked. "Jessica, I'm clean now, working an honest job. I want to be a real father to her. If I'm giving her my kidney, I want the right to be in her life." Richard was angry. "You abandoned your daughter for years and now you're making demands." "With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, but you were gone for 30 years too. At least I have an excuse. The drugs made me lose control. What's yours?" The argument grew tense. Jessica was caught in the middle, unsure what to do. On one hand, Michael had a right to be in his daughter's life. On the other, she feared he might relapse. "Let's let Emily decide," she finally said. When they explained the situation to Emily, she surprised everyone with her maturity. "Dad, if you've really changed, I want you in my life, but not as blackmail for the transplant. Do the surgery because you want to save me, not because you want something in return." Michael cried at his daughter's words. "Emily, I want to save you because I love you. I always have, even when I was lost in drugs. If you let me back into your life, it'll be the greatest gift I could ever get." "Then it's settled," Emily said. "We'll do the surgery, and then we'll be a family. A different kind of family, but a family." Richard watched silently. He was happy to have found his daughter and granddaughter, but he also felt threatened by Michael's return. He feared losing the place he'd earned in their lives. That night, Jessica noticed her father's worry. "Dad, are you afraid of Michael?" "It's not fear, it's just, I lost so much time with you. I don't want to share the little I have left." "You won't lose anything. Emily has room in her heart for all of us. And so do I." The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Michael came to Denver and stayed at Richard's house at Emily's request, so the family could get to know each other better. The days were tense. Richard and Michael didn't get along well. Michael felt intimidated by Richard's social status, and Richard doubted Michael's true intentions. But Emily, even hospitalized and weak, managed to bring the two men together. "Grandpa, Dad, stop fighting. You both love me. That's what matters. When I get out of this, I want to be able to count on both of you." The day before the surgery, something unexpected happened. Michael and Richard were talking in the hospital waiting room when Michael broke down. "Mr. Thompson, I'm afraid I won't be a good father to Emily. I've already let her down once." "Michael, none of us is perfect. I myself lost 30 years of my daughter's life. What's important is being there from now on." "Do you think she can really forgive me?" "I'm sure of it. Emily has a huge heart. She got that from her grandmother, Laura." It was then that the two men began to form a bond, united by their love for Emily. The surgery lasted 8 hours. Jessica, Richard, and some family members stayed in the waiting room in an agonizing vigil. "What if something goes wrong?" Jessica asked her father. "It won't. Emily is strong. She got her strength from her mother and from you too." When the doctor finally appeared, everyone stood up anxiously. "The surgery was a success," he announced. "Both Michael and Emily are doing well. Now we just wait for recovery." Everyone cried with relief. Richard hugged Jessica and whispered, "Our girl will be okay." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Emily's recovery was slow but steady. Michael also recovered well from the surgery and used the rest period to get closer to his daughter. "Dad, tell me about when I was little," Emily asked one of the first days after the surgery. "You were the smartest kid I'd ever seen. By 2, you already knew all the songs on the radio, and you were as stubborn as your mom," Michael said, smiling. "Why did you leave?" Michael sighed. It was a conversation he knew he'd have to have with his daughter. I got mixed up with bad things. Drugs. I started stealing money from home to buy them. Your mum tried to help me, but I didn't want help. One day she told me I had to stop or leave, and you chose the drugs." "I did. It was the worst decision of my life. I lost you. I lost your mum. I lost everything that mattered. But you're clean now. 3 years. And I plan to stay that way forever. For me and for you." Richard watched these conversations from afar, learning to share Emily's attention with Michael. It wasn't easy for him, but he was trying. A month after the surgery, Emily was discharged from the hospital. Adjusting at home brought new challenges. Michael wanted to spend as much time as possible with his daughter, making up for lost years. Richard also wanted to be there constantly. Jessica was caught in the middle, trying to keep the peace. "Mom, is it hard?" Emily asked, sensing the tension. "A little. Your dad and Grandpa want so much time with you that they sometimes forget you need rest too. I'll talk to them." That night, Emily called the 2 men for a serious talk. "Dad, Grandpa, you're smothering me. I know you missed a lot of time with me, but now you need to understand I'm a teenager. I need space. I need my friends. I need to go back to school." "You're right," Richard said. "I'm sorry, Emily. I've been too anxious." "Me too," Michael admitted. "I'm just so afraid of losing you again." "You won't lose me, but you have to respect my space." From that day on, they settled into a more balanced routine. Michael went back to Colorado Springs to work, but came to Denver on weekends. Richard cut back on daily visits, but remained a loving, present grandfather. Jessica finally got to enjoy a more peaceful life. With the money Richard had saved for her over the years, she managed to open a small bakery, fulfilling a long-held dream. "Dad, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us." "Jessica, I'm the one who should be thanking you. You've given me a purpose in life. I was becoming a bitter old man working just for the sake of it. Now I have a family to take care of." But there was still one unresolved issue. Jessica's maternal family remained resistant to Richard's presence in their lives. "Jessica, you need to open your eyes," Aunt Susan insisted. "Richard might be acting nice now, but men like him don't change." "Auntie, with all due respect, you don't know Dad the way I do now." "Oh, I know. Your mother told me things about him that you don't know." "What things?" Susan hesitated for a moment, then said, "Laura told me Richard was violent, that he hit her." Jessica was shocked. That didn't match the Richard she knew at all. "That's not true. My mother never mentioned any violence, because she was ashamed. But she did tell me." Jessica was deeply disturbed by this information. Was her aunt telling the truth, or was this just another attempt to tear the family apart? That night, she decided to confront Richard. "Dad, I need to ask you something. Aunt Susan said you used to hit Mom. Is that true?" Richard was visibly shaken by the question. "Jessica, I never ever laid a hand on your mother. Laura was the most important person in my life. How could I hurt her?" "Then why would my aunt make that up?" "Because your aunt has always been against me." From the first day I met Laura, Susan did everything she could to keep us apart. She convinced your mother that I was no good, that I'd abandon you both. But why? Because Susan wanted Laura to marry their cousin Robert. It was an arranged marriage for money. When Laura chose to stay with me, Susan was furious. Jessica vaguely remembered overhearing conversations as a child about a cousin Robert who always showed up at family gatherings and stared at Laura in a strange way, even after she was gone. Cousin Robert, is he still interested in Grandma's inheritance? What inheritance? Grandma Margaret's house. My aunt always said that when she passed, the house would be divided among the children. But if I'm Laura's daughter, I have a right to her share. Richard immediately understood the situation. Ah, now it all makes sense. Your aunt is afraid of losing money. If you get close to me, you'll want your rights to the maternal family's inheritance. That's so petty. Unfortunately, money brings out the worst in people. Jessica decided to confront her aunt directly. She went to the maternal family's house, where Susan lived with some cousins. Aunt Susan, I need to know the truth. Why are you making up stories about Richard? I'm not making up anything. Yes, you are, and I know why. It's because of Grandma Margaret's inheritance, isn't it? Susan turned red with anger. You have no right to anything from this family. Your mother made her choice when she ran off with that man. My mother ran away because you all made her life hell, and I am Grandma Margaret's granddaughter. I do have a right to the inheritance. We'll never let you lay a hand on our property. I don't want a fight, Auntie. I just want you to stop lying about my father. Your father? Susan laughed sarcastically. You don't even know that man. I know him better than you think, and he's a far better person than anyone in this family. Jessica left her aunt's house feeling free. She had finally understood all the games of greed that had destroyed her mother's life. When she told Richard what she'd discovered, he wasn't surprised. Jessica, your mother suffered a lot because of her family. They controlled her every move. When she got pregnant with you, they saw an opportunity to get rid of me once and for all. What do you mean? They convinced Laura that I would abandon her as soon as I found out about the pregnancy. They made her believe I was just playing with her, and when she came to tell me she was pregnant, I reacted with great joy. I wanted to get married right away, but her mind had already been poisoned by the family. And she ran away. She did. She left a letter saying she didn't want to disrupt my life, that I was too young for responsibilities. But in truth, she was protecting you from a family she thought would reject her. What a tragedy. So many years lost because of lies. But now we're together. That's what matters. Meanwhile, Emily was recovering more and more. She went back to school, reunited with friends, and slowly her life returned to normal. One Saturday afternoon, while Jessica was working at the bakery and Richard was handling some business, Emily got an unexpected visit. Great Aunt Susan. Emily, can I talk to you? Of course, Great Aunt. What is it? It's about this man in your lives, this Richard. My grandfather, what about him? Emily, you're too young to understand, but this man isn't trustworthy. He abandoned your mother when she needed him most, and now he's back only because he found out you have money. What money? We've never had money. Emily, your great-grandmother Margaret is leaving a large inheritance when she passes. Land, houses. Your mother is entitled to a share. This Richard found out and now wants to take advantage. Emily, at 15, had already been through so much that she'd developed a sharp sense about people. Great Aunt, with all due respect, but you're lying. What do you mean? My grandfather is a wealthy man. He has a big company, a beautiful house. Why would he want our inheritance? Because the rich are never satisfied with what they have. No, you're lying because you're afraid of losing money. My mother told me about the family fights over the inheritance. Susan was furious at being confronted by a teenager. Your mother shouldn't be poisoning your mind against the family. My mother isn't poisoning anything. She just told me the truth. And the truth is you never accepted my grandfather, and now you're jealous because our life has gotten better. Emily, you don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. And I'm asking you not to come back here unless you're willing to accept my grandfather. He saved me, understand? Gave me a new kidney, gave me a family. And I won't let anyone speak badly of him. Susan left the house angry, but Emily felt proud for defending her grandfather. When Richard came home and heard about Susan's visit, he was worried. "Emily, you don't have to wear yourself out defending your old grandpa." "Yes, I do. You're my family. And family protects each other." Richard was moved by his granddaughter's words. Little by little, he was learning that the love of a true family was far stronger than any adversity. A few months later, Grandma Margaret did pass away. The reading of the will was tense, with the entire maternal family gathered, waiting to see who would get what. To everyone's surprise, Margaret had left very specific instructions. Most of the inheritance was divided equally among all the grandchildren, including Jessica. But there was a special clause. If anyone tried to contest the will or stir up trouble in the family, they'd automatically lose their share. "Grandma Margaret was smarter than we thought," Jessica remarked to Richard after the reading. "She protected you even after she was gone." The inheritance Jessica received wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to expand the bakery and give her small family more financial security. Aunt Susan, realizing she'd lost control of the situation, finally resigned herself. She stopped causing trouble and slowly began to accept Richard's presence in the family. A year after the transplant, Emily was fully recovered. Her tests showed that the kidney donated by Michael was functioning perfectly. The family had found a balance. Michael still lived in Colorado Springs, but came every Friday and spent the weekend with Emily. Richard was a present, but not overbearing grandfather. Jessica ran her bakery with great success. "You know what?" Emily said during one of their Sunday family gatherings. "I always wanted a big family. Now I have a mom, a dad, a grandpa, even great-grandparents on my mom's side who stopped fighting with us. And we always wanted you in our lives," Richard said, "even when we didn't know you existed." "Grandpa, do you think Grandma Laura would approve of all this?" Richard smiled sadly. "I'm sure she would. Your grandmother wanted nothing more in the world than for you and your mom to be happy. Then she's happy now wherever she is." Michael, who had been listening, stepped closer. "Emily, I know I made a lot of mistakes, but I want you to know that these months with you have been the best of my life. Dad, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is learning from them and moving forward." "Where did you learn to be so wise?" Michael asked, laughing. "From the three of you. Each of you taught me something. Mom taught me to be strong, Grandpa taught me to be generous, and you taught me it's always possible to start over." Richard looked at the scene, his daughter, his granddaughter, and even Michael, and felt immense gratitude for everything that had happened. "You know," he said, "I spent 30 years searching for you, but now I realize maybe everything happened at the right time. If I'd found you sooner, I might not have appreciated you the way I do now." "What do you mean, Grandpa?" "When we're young, we think we have endless time. We don't value the simple things, a Sunday with family, a conversation on the couch, a meal together. Now at my age, I know every moment with you is precious." Jessica walked over and hugged her father. "Dad, it took me a while to understand that too. I spent years angry at a man I didn't even know. Now I know anger just wastes time." "And I learned it's never too late to be a father," Michael said. "Even though I missed the first years of Emily's life, I can still be there for her future." Emily looked at the three adults she loved and felt her heart full of gratitude. "You know what's funny?" she said. "All of this started because Mom took a suitcase that wasn't hers." Everyone laughed at the remark. "It's true," Jessica said. "If I hadn't been desperate that day, if I hadn't seen that suitcase in the park, maybe we never would have met." "Or maybe we would have met another way," Richard said. "I was determined to find you. I would have tried other ways." "But this was perfect," Emily said, "because it showed all of us that sometimes we have to break our own rules to find what really matters." "How so?" Michael asked. "Mom broke the rule of not taking things from others. Grandpa broke the rule of not getting emotionally involved with strangers, and you broke the rule of not going back to the past." The three adults were struck by the depth of Emily's observation. "Our daughter has really grown up," Michael said to Jessica. "Yeah, the illness matured her a lot, but in a good way." Richard stood up and went to a cabinet, pulling out a photo album. "Emily, I prepared something for you." "What is it, Grandpa?" "All the photos I could gather of your grandmother, Laura, and also places I visited while searching for you over the years. I want you to know our family's story." Emily opened the album and saw dozens of photos of a young Laura, smiling, radiant. Pictures of her pregnant, preparing the layette for the baby she was expecting. "She was so beautiful," said Emily. "She was the most beautiful woman in the world," said Richard, "and you look just like her." "Grandpa, do you still miss her?" "Every day, but now it's a different kind of missing. Before it was mixed with despair because I didn't know where you were. Now it's a grateful missing because I know she gave me the greatest gift of my life, you and your mother." Jessica was also moved seeing the photos of her mother. "Dad, Mom really loved you. It's impossible to fake the happiness in these pictures. She did love me, and I loved her too. Our love created you, who created Emily. Love never dies, it just changes." In that moment, they all hugged in a long family embrace. It was as if Laura were there with them, blessing the reunion she had always dreamed of. 2 years later, Emily was preparing to take her college entrance exam. She wanted to study medicine, inspired by everything she had been through. "I want to help other kids like I was helped," she said. Richard decided to create a foundation in Laura's name to assist needy families with sick children. Jessica would run the foundation, combining her personal experience with her talent for management. Michael had been promoted at the construction site where he worked and was planning to move back to Denver permanently. "Em will start college soon," he told Jessica. "I want to be close to support her during this phase of her life." "And we want you close too," Jessica replied. "You've changed so much, Michael. You're being a wonderful father. I learned from you that family is about being present, and I want to be present." On the eve of Emily's exam, the family gathered for a special dinner. "Em, no matter the result, we're proud of you," said Jessica. "It's true," Richard added. "You've already overcome the biggest challenge of your life. Grandpa, Mom, Dad, you know none of this would have been possible without you, right? Each of you saved me in a different way." "How so?" asked Michael. "Mom saved me with her unconditional love. Grandpa saved me financially and emotionally, and Dad saved me literally by donating his kidney." "We're the ones who were saved by you," said Richard. "You taught us what's truly important in life." "And what's that?" Emily asked, smiling. "Family," the three answered in unison. Emily passed the CU Boulder Medical School entrance exam with one of the highest scores. On enrollment day, the whole family went with her. "In 6 years, we'll have a doctor in the family," said Michael proudly. "And a foundation running to help other families," Jessica added. "And plenty of stories to tell our great-grandchildren," said Richard, making everyone laugh. "Great-grandchildren?" Emily asked. "Grandpa, I haven't even started dating yet." "But you will. And when you do, I'll have to meet the boy first," Richard teased. "No way," Emily protested. "You'll scare off any boyfriend I bring home." "That's what grandpas are for," Richard said, laughing. As they walked through the university campus, Jessica took in the scene. Her father explaining CU Boulder's historic buildings to Emily, Michael taking pictures of his daughter on her first day of class, and Emily, radiant, surrounded by the family she had almost lost and who would never leave her alone again. 3 years earlier, she had been a desperate mother, about to lose custody of her daughter with no money for medical treatment, alone in the world. Now she was a successful businesswoman, surrounded by a loving family, with a healthy daughter studying medicine. It all started with a stolen suitcase on a desperate afternoon. A suitcase that belonged to the father she believed had abandoned her, but who had actually never stopped searching for her. Sometimes fate works in mysterious ways. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. Sometimes what seems like the end is actually a new beginning. And sometimes a simple suitcase left on a park bench can reunite a family torn apart by decades of lies and misunderstandings. Richard kept the suitcase that had served as a bridge to finding his family again. Whenever he looked at it, he remembered that true love always finds its way back. Jessica learned that judging someone without knowing the full story can cost precious years of togetherness. Michael discovered that it's never too late to be a better father. And Emily realized that family isn't just about blood ties, but about people who choose to be there for each other, especially in the toughest moments. 5 years later, when Emily graduated from medical school, she made sure to dedicate her diploma to 4 people: her mother Jessica, her father Michael, her grandfather Richard, and her grandmother Laura, who, though no longer physically present, had been the link that brought them all together. At the graduation party, Richard stood up to make a toast. 8 years ago, I was a lonely man, rich in money but poor in love. Today, I'm the richest man in the world because I have a family who loves me. I toast to our doctor Emily, who taught us that the greatest miracles happen when we least expect them. I also toast to my mother Laura, said Jessica, who, even though she left us too soon, left behind a legacy of love that guided us to this moment. I toast to forgiveness, said Michael, which gave me a second chance to be a father. And I toast to fate, said Emily, which used a lost suitcase to find a family. They all raised their glasses, and in that moment, they knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, as a real family, as it always should have been. The black leather suitcase was still kept in Richard's office, no longer a symbol of desperate searching, but a reminder that true love always finds its way home. And the story that began with a desperate theft by a woman with no options turned into the most beautiful tale of reunion and forgiveness any of them could have imagined. Because sometimes, to find our family, we first have to get lost. And sometimes the wrongest thing we do ends up being the rightest thing we've ever done in our lives. The end. Now tell me, what did you think of this story of overcoming and family reunion? Do you believe Jessica made the right decisions along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you've ever experienced something similar in your own family. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.